Hello, on this March 17th, Michael Bociurkiw, Global Affairs Analyst and Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council. So this is my short video report for today. The day began very early, at 7 a.m. Live hit on CNN with the wonderful Hala Gorani. We talked a lot about the current state of affairs here in Ukraine, especially 24 hours or so after President Zelensky gave that pretty moving and historic speech to both houses of Congress. As I said on air.
Yeah, absolutely, because I don't think we see the political will right now for the West to do a complete no-fly zone over Ukraine. So let's look at past history where in other theaters of war, I think this was done where you have a humanitarian no-fly zone over a certain part of the country. In this case, Western Ukraine, where there are a lot of internally displaced people here seeking shelter and protection. And I think that would come across, I think, to the West and to Mr. Putin as less of a confrontation, that this is purely for humanitarian reasons. But whether, again, the political will is there in the West is difficult to tell.
Because you'd have to enforce it.
It would have to be enforced. But, you know, the other thing is Mr. Zelensky is still also pressing for those Polish MiG jets to come here. And I'd also argue, Hala, is that what's the difference between providing lethal weaponry and these jets? I mean, it's already the precedent is there as well. But I'm getting very worried that, again, the West does not have the ability or the willingness to come to Ukraine's assistance. And I think the feeling I'm getting from a lot of people here is that we are pretty much in this alone. And we're protecting, you know, the NATO's eastern flank. And I think what you're going to see is more and more kind of micro-alliances with neighboring countries who also feel threatened by Mr. Putin.
Do you think?
One person I really have admired for quite some time, is Peter Maurer. He's the world's top humanitarian diplomat, was on my podcast last year. His formal title is head of the International Committee of the Red Cross in Geneva. Well, he found the bravery to come to Kyiv this week. He's there. He's had a whole bunch of meetings. He's looking at the damage up close as well. And the ICRC does what a lot of other organizations cannot do because they have such a history, they have such trust, things like prisoner swaps, identification of POWs, that sort of thing.
We need to respond to our protection mandate. This is an international armed conflict in which there are clear obligations with regard to prisoners of war, to civilian detained, to those who have died, to those who are missing, to the conduct of hostilities by the parties. These are issues which demand our strong engagements with all sides.
But I really liked what he said today. He's a man of conviction. He sees things other people don't. But he said, "It saddens me that children are boarding buses into the unknown instead of boarding buses to their schools. The devastation of this conflict has been vast." That's his direct quote. Otherwise, I wanted to provide a little bit of color. You know, taxi drivers and barbers are the best people to talk to for kind of information and for gossip. But the chap I was speaking to who cut my hair, his name is Bogdan, great name, said that, yeah, most of our clients are now out-of-towners. Our regular clients have gone. And he doesn't mean necessarily overseas, but he does mean to the countryside where it's safer, or to fight actually to the west, whereas a lot of folks from Kyiv especially have come here with their money, with their expensive cars. It's really changed the kind of texture of the city, as I've told you before. We see cars here that you never see normally in Lviv, which happens to be in normal times, a pretty humble place. The kind of fortification of Lviv continues. I'm seeing really heavy kind of protection or shrouding going around churches, historic places, things like that. The main kind of thrust of things right now seems to be the Russian army trying to hold on to military objectives it's accomplished, mainly that land corridor between the Russian mainland and Crimea. But also, it almost seems like they're trying to figure out what to do with Kyiv. They've encircled it, in many places. Russia is now preparing to use its older and more deadly weaponry. For example, missiles that have no guidance system and just lob them into populated centers, as we've seen happen over the years in Donetsk and Luhansk. So I'll be back again tomorrow, again, hopefully outside with further updates. But that's it for me, signing off on this Thursday evening in Lviv, Ukraine. Michael Bociurkiw, thank you very much. And don't forget to follow my website and tell others about it.